Now, former President Donald Trump really likes Vladimir Putin. I think we've pretty much established that. And what's interesting about this, especially since now Russia has invaded the sovereign country of Ukraine, his comments and him sticking by Putin is exposing a schism in the Republican Party. So now, let me give you an example. Just hours before the Russian invasion into Ukraine, Trump had some pretty lovely praise for Putin. This actually comes from a recording from Mar-a-Lago here. Let's take a look.
And I said, well, he's sharp, he's smart. Oh, Trump said Putin's smart. I mean, he's taken over a country for $2 worth of sanctions. I'd say that's pretty smart. He's taking over a country, really a vast location, a great piece of land with a lot of people and just walking right in. This would have never happened, ever in a million years would have never happened. And I know him very well. I know him.
All right. Now there's more. He also said, this is on a radio interview for the Clay and Travis Buck Sexton show. This is on Tuesday. He said, this is genius. Putin declares a big portion of Ukraine. Putin declares it as independent. Oh, that's wonderful. So Putin is now saying it's independent, a large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper. Now, of course, that's not what he did. His attacks and invasion went way beyond those two supposed independent republics into Ukraine proper. So, I mean, they came into the water in Odessa. They came through the border with Belarus. And they came through those eastern regions as well, Donetsk and Luhansk. And so, look, it's an invasion. You've got fire going on in Kiev, the capital. And so, look, this is very clear what it is. And yet Donald Trump's like, oh, no, this is very smart. This is very smart. No, what this is, it's regime change, in my opinion, at least. I think Vladimir Putin wants a puppet state on his border that, basically he wants to kick out Zelensky and install his own guy, somebody who is, loyal to him, loyal to Russia, and then use that as a buffer state between Russia and NATO countries. That's the way that I see it. And so, ironically, Putin has been using similar rhetoric to the United States when it came to Iraq. Sort of. And I say that because you remember, we're going to come there and we're going to be liberators. Well, Putin's saying the same thing. Oh, we're going to be liberators to the people of Ukraine, which obviously, from what it seems, Ukraine not exactly interested in that kind of liberation. And so now it's an invasion. And look, Putin showed his hand by attacking the entire country. And what's interesting here, the result of that, at least when it comes to Republican politics, is that here you have a nice crack that is developed between the Trump wing of the party and establishment Republicans. And so let's get to some examples here. I'm going to show you a video here. It's a little bit of a mashup of Tucker Carlson and another prominent Trump, well, maybe not prominent, but another Trump supporting Republican who said some very interesting things about Putin and Russia. Take a look.
Why do I hate Putin so much? Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? Did he manufacture a worldwide pandemic that wrecked my business and kept me indoors for 2 years? Is he teaching my children to embrace racial discrimination? Is he making fentanyl? Is he trying to snuff out Christianity? Does he eat dogs? These are fair questions, and the answer to all of them is no. Vladimir Putin didn't do any of that.
Russia is a Christian nationalist nation. They're actually Orthodox Christian. I'm Russian Orthodox. So, I actually support Putin's right to protect his people and always put his people first, but also protect their Christian values. I identify more with with Putin's Christian values than I do with Joe Biden. Christian nationalist countries also are a threat to the global regime, like the Luciferian regime. It wants to mash everything together, but Putin takes care of his people. He looks out for his people. I watched as he deported, like they literally walked them through the streets, the criminal illegals who were coming into their country. Yeah. They walked them out and they escorted them out and they said, get out. I can respect that.
That went from 0 to crazy quite fast. And so, wow. Yeah, oh no, she's against the Luciferian regime. The what? The what? Huh? So, okay, a complete and utter insanity. And so, but again, that's the Trump side. You've got Tucker Carlson. That other person, of course, was a former Wisconsin Republican candidate, Lauren Witzke. And so you also have people like Steve Bannon. And of course, a chunk of the Republican base that, again, is in favor of just Vladimir Putin. In fact, I remember seeing shirts from Republicans in, rallies saying I'd rather be a Russian than a Democrat. Now, it's kind of a weird thing to say. Look, there's nothing wrong with being Russian. That's totally fine. It's just that when you call yourself the pro-patriot, pro-America party, it's kind of odd to see you then now identifying with a foreign leader. Super weird, kind of strange. But look, from what I understand, is that the Republican Party, and I've shown this, they want a Christian nationalist, fundamentalist regime in the United States. They believe that that's what they have over in Russia. They want a strong man like Putin to, run the country. They don't believe in our democracy or a republic, and so they're not at all interested in that. And so they look at him and they're like, I really want to be, I want that over here. Yes, Putin, please come. That's what they're saying. So now, that's one side. Now you get the other side. And the other side is very interesting as well. Because then you've got some establishment figures, and I do get a little concerned about them because of course, of who they are. Well, one of them happens to be Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham's never met a war he didn't like. Now, he's not calling for a war yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. But nonetheless, here's what he said. And this is not only Lindsey Graham, but Ben Sasse, another Republican, in this video. Take a look.
I would make Putin the target of an effort to hold him accountable for the money he has stole from the Russian people. They say he may be worth up to $100 billion. Well, how did he get that money? He stole it from Russia. It means that he's a war criminal. It means that he went into Ukraine, a sovereign nation, and started killing people by force of arms. He invaded a sovereign nation against all legal norms. He's indiscriminately killing civilians. So he's a war criminal, but he's a crook and he's a thug, and we need to go after him personally.
Because the guy's got big-ass weapons, and he's evil. You could think he's a genius and evil, or you could think he's a madman and evil, but the reality is he has a lot of weapons and he has a lot of will, and so we have to care.
So now, let me just note the irony of Lindsey Graham calling anyone a war criminal. Really? Lindsey Graham. And I'm not saying that's not even true, what Lindsey Graham says about Vladimir Putin. But I'm just saying it's coming from a weird source. Very, very weird source. But okay, fair enough, right? So look, that's what they're saying so far. Now both have stressed, or at least one has stressed, that, hey, we don't want troops in Ukraine. Now, I agree. I don't want troops in there. I really don't want this to turn into World War III. That would be a disaster. I'm still holding out for some sort of solution here that ends the violence. And I again, I'm forever an optimist, I guess. But all right, that said, I've got one more. Again, we covered two sides here. Now let's just go to one more crazy comment, and this actually comes from Tommy Tuberville. Here's what he said. The reason that Russians have invaded Ukraine, quote, it's because he can't feed his people. It's a communist country, so he can't feed his people. They need more farmland. I don't know where you got that. What? For one, no, Russia isn't actually communist. They've been communist for a very long time. And secondly, this isn't about farmland. And so, no, but again, that's just an example of the good, the bad, and the what the fuck. And it kind of tells you something. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Nobody knows what they're talking about. The only thing that they can actually agree on is somehow that this is exclusively Joe Biden's fault. That is the one thing all the Republicans definitely agree on. They're like, oh, well, look at that. See, this entire situation, it can be boiled down to Joe Biden. What? What? Okay. Now, look, here's the thing. That's not the case. This isn't Joe Biden's fault. There's a lot of contributing factors that led to this conflict, okay? And look, one of the most obvious things to point at is NATO's eastward expansion. I think that should have been unnecessary after the Cold War. I do think that, having NATO countries so close to Russia's border and expanding when, again, they didn't necessarily need to, yes, did have some provocation towards the Russians. Now, I was hoping that, okay, so we just say to Ukraine, let's not ask you to join NATO. I thought that would have been fine. Apparently, I was wrong there because it seemed like this was planned for quite some time. I mean, again, Putin literally does not think that this is a country. Like the country of Ukraine, he doesn't think actually is a real country and does not exist. And so does want it, and these are his own words. Ukraine doesn't exist, it's not a country, and it was a mistake for this to break off the Soviet Union, the USSR, etc. And so, okay, understand that this is just a culmination of 30 years, at least, of, unease and different factors that contributed to what's going on today. And so it's not the fault of just one singular American president. And by the way, if Donald Trump were in office, do you think this wouldn't have happened? Of course it would have happened. Donald Trump wouldn't have been able to stop it. It would have very likely happened under any president. And so this, this entire thing is just a really interesting microcosm of where Republican politics has gone today. While they can't seem to agree on what side that they're doing, whether they support an autocrat or whether they do not. And again, some of that has different interests, like, for example, oil interests, oil and gas. Our corporations, our oil companies are like, oh yeah, we could definitely have more, sell more oil and gas to Europe. That would be a great thing for us. And then, of course, you have defense contractors that want to sell more weapons, to that area as well, and to NATO partners. So they're eyeing this too. But again, you have the different factors here that are at play. And you also have just a weird seeming love for Vladimir Putin and his, strongman regime from certain Republicans like Donald Trump. Very, very strange stuff. And it's just all, unfolding in real time.